Hi, welcome again to another episode of the Juan Words podcast. My name is Angelica Casares.
And I'm Juan Alanis.
Thanks so much for joining us today. Can I be loud now?
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Okay, so for today, a couple of episodes back, I used to read Juan's blog post, and I love his blog post. Look, the guy is pretty good. I know he hates it when I start commenting on his writing. I do every time I have the opportunity and the chance to do so. I do, because I love his writing. I'm a fan of my own husband. But I look, I read some blog posts. I'm going to read a little bit more. Back in the day, Juan used to call something called Mexi-Vocabulario, right? Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah, so Mexi-Vocabulario started on the blog because it's I don't know how it
was
started.
Its infancy. When you first started, this is kind of the way you started. It was dichos, and then Mexico-Vocabulario was inserted.
Yeah, which Mexi-Vocabulario was basically Mexican slang, things that were, I guess, Mexican slang, and I just, was oh, you know what, let me be clever, I thought, and I was let me call it Mexi-Vocabulario.
Uh-huh.
So Mexican
so what does
vocabulary.
It mean? Mexican vocabulary. What does it mean? Is it like a mix? Is it? Would you say it was Tex-Mex slang? What do you call it?
I would say probably it's more northern Mexican slang,
okay,
because because I'm from San Luis, you're from San Luis, so it's stuff that we grew up.
But some of these words are known throughout the country.
Yeah, so I think it's norteño Mexican mixed with Tex-Mex mixed with other words that we picked up around.
Yeah,
but it's the words that
the country it's
the words that we grew up with, the words
correct,
that you grew up hearing, that sometimes you hear,
yeah,
and you're what the hell does that mean when you think about it, when you really think about it, and you're what does that actually mean?
So they're sayings.
No, expressions.
Expressions. Okay.
Expressions are just words that you say that maybe
that mean something, but don't have an English name for it. Okay.
You might find them on the Urban Dictionary as opposed to finding them on the
Mexican Urban Dictionary, to be specific.
Yeah, you might find them on the Urban Dictionary as opposed to finding them on Webster's. You might not find them on Webster or the Real Academia, which I guess is the Spanish version.
Oh my God, I cannot believe you just said Real. Okay, Juan. All right, Juan. All right. Okay. So I'm gonna read a few, and then if you want to chime in at any moment and let me know what you think of the word still, or maybe you wanted to add something,
okay,
and then we'll go from there.
Well, what made me think about this is because you're somebody made a comment. It was actually somebody that you interviewed on the podcast before, on the podcast before, and it was your teacher, your ex-teacher, that.
My ex-teacher.
Your ex-teacher.
My old high school teacher. Calm down.
Yeah, your old high school teacher, and he was what, an English teacher?
He was my English teacher.
So your English teacher commented on the blog.
He did,
which a few days ago, and he happened to come across. He was how funny is it that I found your blog for this word that I was this research that I was doing around this word, and he happened to know that I was your husband. So he was this is funny that
we come full circle.
Yeah. So I was you know what, you were reading the blog post. Yeah. I was let's read the Mexi-Vocabulario and see.
Well, I've been wanting to read these also, so it's not you just came to me. You're Angelica, read these. That's not what happened. I've been wanting to read these.
It was serendipity.
It was serendipity. I guess that's what you can call it. Okay, so here are a few of them, and if you're hearing this now, and if you have a different interpretation, or if you want to add on to the interpretation of what I'm going to read, please do so. Again, this is a two-way conversation. We talk here, you come to us, you comment on we know the rule, right? All right, let us know. Okay, so here we go. The first word, alcahuete.
Alcahueta.
Alcahuete.
Alcahueta.
I can put an E at the end. Alcahuete. Eres una alcahueta.
Oh, okay. You're using the male version.
Yes, I am. Because you look at me and you're alcahueta. And I'm alcahuete. All right. So this basically, it's one of alcahueta. It's one of those most offensive words you could use to describe a comadre, as I learned not too long ago. Then again, it's also one of my favorite words to make fun of ourselves with. Alcahuete. Good uses. Ahí ando yo de
alcahueta para arriba y para abajo y ni siquiera me había dado cuenta lo que andaban haciendo.
There I am going with him here and there, and I didn't even know what they were doing. Bad usage.
Esa tipa, she's always trying to get you to do things. Alcahueta.
Though usually the latter might.
Which one are you?
Are you trying to like silence me?
No, this is you're coming in like it's popping. So like I think it's gonna come in really loud.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, I won't be so exaggerated then.
No, you can be
And I'll
exaggerated.
talk
I'm
like
just trying to bring it
this.
down a little bit.
It's okay. It's here. I'll do it out here. Okay. Like this?
Yeah.
All right. I'm so loud. I'm so loud. I'm so sorry. Okay. So here we go. Though usually the latter might be accompanied by mugre vieja or something similar. The Real Academia Español defines the word as una persona que conociere... What?
Where is it at? Where are you at?
Juan is better at reading Spanish.
Una persona que concierta, encubre o facilita una relación amorosa generalmente ilícita.
I don't even know what that means. In plain English, Juan describes, a person who encourages concealing and makes possible a romantic relationship, usually an illicit one. Can you believe it? The Urban Dictionary hasn't even defined this one yet. In reality, alcahueta is much less literal when loosely used and can mean anything from being too lenient.
Lenient?
Good God, I can't read today. Let me read that again. In reality, alcahueta is much less literal when loosely used and can mean anything from being too lenient with a child to lying through your teeth for the benefit of another, knowingly going along with something that you know is probably wrong, basically. I'm always on the hunt for Mexi-Vocabulario. Okay, so basically, writer's disclaimer. Did you really?
Yeah. I put it on all of them because I was like, I know that my interpretation of the word is not necessarily correct.
Well, let me read your disclaimer. He says, when I say Mexi-Vocabulario, I don't necessarily mean these words are exclusively Mexican and only used by Mexicans. This is simply an expression of how they were introduced to me in our Mexican Spanish. And we just described what our Mexican Spanish is. Spanish is. So okay. So who used to use the word alcahueta that you thought that...
I feel like it was always used. Like I feel like
my mom's always calling me an alcahueta.
I feel like like if I was gonna say like I feel like my parents called us alcahuetas because we were like
alcahuete.
Like when one of us would get in trouble and then the other one was be like, try to cover for the other one, or like try to like, like, oh yeah andas tú de alcahueta, or like,
you get caught. You know what? It's when you get caught in the mix.
Yeah.
It's ahí andas de alcahueta. Ahí andas. Ahí está la gente. Mira, ahí Angélica la chismosa. No. Not when you're being chismosa, but when you're like in the mix, like you got done stirred. They like stirred the pot and you got in there.
You're like stirring the pot.
You're either one of the ones like stirring the pot or you're in the mix. You get caught up in the game.
Yeah, you get caught up in the crossfire.
I'm always getting if you can call me anything outside of like chismosa and metiche, I'm for sure an alcahueta. Like that is like me
or
to
like
that T.
Alcahueta also can also be like the person that's like the cheerleader in the back who's like knows that you're probably gonna get in trouble if you do that, but they're like, go ahead, do it. It's okay. Like, come on,
you get straight in the pot. But guess who also gets in trouble? Guess who also gets in trouble?
Get in trouble.
Yeah, everybody fucking gets in trouble. That's why this is not.
But you remember as a kid or like even as like an adult or like a teenager where you were like, oh, I probably shouldn't do that, but you had that one person that was like
egging you on.
Like, oh, nobody's gonna know. Come on, nobody's gonna know. Who's gonna find out? Who's gonna tell them?
You know what I call it?
It's like the little
Okay, so you ever see those movies when they're like the two best friends are like in the car and they're writing something? They're like, no, I'm gonna go by there and I'm gonna say something and I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that, and she's like riding shotgun. She's like, yeah, remember that time this happened? You better tell him that too. No, I'll be there. I won't say much, but I'll be there. Like that's an alcahueta. Like that's, you know what I'm saying? And so
you're gonna let them talk to you like that? You're gonna just stand there and take it? You gonna do that? Huh? You're not gonna defend yourself? Huh?
You be watching too many Real Housewives of Atlanta. That's what you're doing over there.
No, even as a kid, like when you were like, you're gonna let them punk you?
Oh yeah,
you're gonna let them punk you? You're gonna be a punk?
You're gonna be a punk? No. Them some fighting words. Oh my God. Okay, so next one. Way or way.
Gway or way. Like gway with a G and way with a W.
So the next Mexi-Vocabulario, gway or way. By very far, this single word is one of the non-Spanish speakers always ask me about the most. It never fails. As soon as language comes up as a topic of conversation, specifically popular words used by Mexicans in Spanish here in Texas, the following question usually follows. What does that word mean that all Mexican guys use? It's like way or way. Is it a bad word? Ovi, it's much easier to remember and learn bad words in another language than it is to learn all the rules and grammatical regulations that would actually make a fluent in said language.
You have to say that again.
I said it right.
No, read it again because I feel like I didn't capture my what the hell I wrote.
Ovi, it's much easier to remember and learn bad words in another language than it is to learn all the rules and grammatical regulations that would actually make one fluent in said language. Los intento completamente. So, how do I answer this very question? It's very simple, really. Depending on the tone and context of its usage, way or way, either spelling works can be either good or bad in its intended message. For example, someone says, "Óyeme, güey, ¿cuál es tu pedo?" They're basically confronting you with a, "Hey man, what's your problem?" On the other hand, if you're greeted with a, "Hey, güey, ¿cómo te va?" You're basically being greeted with a, "Hey, dog, man, dude, fool, how are you?" So there you have it. My very short and simple definition. That's actually really good, Juan. That's a really good way to put it. You actually want something a little more formal, go to Wikipedia. So they have the Wikipedia meaning, which is way, usually misspelled, or way, pronounced like an English word of way, W-A-Y, is a word of a Mexican Spanish which is commonly used to refer to any person without using his name, applies equally to males and females, though it is more often applied to males. It is used as a Mexican Spanish in roughly the same way dude is used in the modern American English. It is a divert from the term buey, which refers to what? Castrated boar or ox used for meat? Juan, what is this? And or labor of pulling. Juan, over time, the initial B underwent a construct mutation to a resulting in the modern way. In Mexico, the same word is used like an insult and can be negative, like fool. Although, due to the extremely high frequency of use of the multitude of contexts, it has lost much of its offensive character becoming. It is extremely multitude context. Okay. Although due to the extremely high frequency use of the multitude of contexts, it has lost much of its offensive character. So, do you still get asked this question about way?
I don't feel like I get asked as much. I think people are like more like familiar with the word, but I feel like this was like in early 2010, 11, 12 or something like that. And so I feel like I think that, and I think I worked in an office where it was much more like multicultural. So I think that I was probably one of the only Hispanics, one of the few Hispanics there. So I think people were like, "What does this mean? Like, what is that?" Well, I've heard this word asked, and and it was, and I got it all the time. Like people would always ask me, like, "What does this mean? What does this mean?" And I was like,
"What does way mean?"
And I was like, "Oh, it's just like a way," and it's just like what I said there. Like it's just an easy word.
You know what it is? The thing is that we at one point we use the word. Even now we use the word way, like using the word like the, it, that. Like it's so like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think it was I think it was much more like in the culture. Like I think it was like way, like I think there were commercials that
some
said
videos
way,
that were, no, there weren't commercials. There was like, videos that were coming out. There was the one of the little kid who was like going across a pond or something. And he tried to do so like on a branch, and the other friend was like moving the branch for him to fall, and the kid on the branch like was getting so upset. He was like, Yahweh, Yahweh, Párale, way.
And then there was that Espinosa Paz meme that was going around where he was like crying. And it said Yahweh.
Yeah, it was right after that one video. But basically, that can be used like that. You know what I mean? It's like it's one of those. That was like a term of endearment, like Yahweh, like stop, like I'm so frustrated, like leave me alone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But to still like not insult you, but to still get across to you.
Yeah. And
So like, yeah, definitely when you say the word way, it calls attention.
Well, I like the variety of it. I like the fact those are the words that I like, are words that you can that you can interpret in different ways, that you can depending on how you say it, like the inflection in your voice or the context that you use it in, or like the tone that you say it in, like you can take it like completely from one extreme to the other extreme, because it's just in the way you say it and the way you use it. And that's to me, like, that's why I like that word, because I was like, oh, like not only can you spell it differently, but you can say it differently, and you can like either offend or you can make somebody laugh.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. They're like, it's a good word. Way.
So for the Spanish learners out there, I'm sorry, but I don't think my definitions are helping you much.
But you gave a really good description of two different ones. I thought that was pretty good. I thought it was good, Juan.
This episode of the Juan of Words podcast is brought to you by our friends at Comcast Houston,
Woot
who we are very proud to be working with. And they recently awarded through their Comcast Rise investment fund in the community of Houston, in the entrepreneur
At the price of how much?
They invested $1 million.
They sure did. To how many? To how many?
To 100 businesses. They each received $10,000. So
there's a lot that you can do with $10,000 in your business.
Yeah, and we are grateful for Comcast for their support of our small business and for the support of other small businesses. So enjoy the podcast, and thank you to our friends at Comcast.
Enjoy the rest of the episode. All right, so moving on to the next one. Mexi-Vocabulario. Pipiri's nice.
Pipiri's nice, yeah.
Pipiri's nice.
I remember this one was like yeah, when I did this one, I think people were like I think this was one of the first ones that I did, like Pipiri's nice, and people really like that's just like it made me motivated me to do more, because people responded to it so well.
Okay,
like it was like back then it was blogs, and like put this blog post out and it said Pipiri's nice, and I remember I got a lot of feedback where people were like, oh my god, like I hadn't heard that word, or like that word, like blah blah blah, and they'd share like stories about how they had experienced the word.
My stepdad would use that word a lot.
Yeah.
He would be like, Pipiri's nice. Yeah. Pipiri's nice. Yeah. And I would be like, what? And I thought it was like you use this word, colloquial, to like his region. I never really heard it until he came around.
I used to hear it.
He was from like Guanajuato, and I was like, why, is that the way they talk over there?
I think I remember hearing it, like, I don't remember people like saying it too much like around me when I was growing up, but I remember seeing it on TV, like in comedy shows or like sitcoms where they would say, Pipiri's nice. And what I liked about it, I think, was the fact that it was that at the end was nice, but it was spelled N-A-I-S.
Oh, we have a bad habit of doing a lot of that to a lot of words.
So that's why I was like, oh, I like that it's like, Pipiri already is like, oh, like it's like a sound, like, oh, Pipiri, like, oh, like, you know, it sounds like
Pipiri.
And then you add nice to it, Pipiri nice, and I was like, oh my god, that's a funny word. And that's why I went and I like looked up what the hell it meant.
We do that with a lot of words, like what was the last? No, pues wow.
Or like el face.
El face.
El face.
Like as opposed to Facebook. El face. ¿Dónde le dices? Allá en el face. ¿Tú crees? Ay, Dios. All right, so Mexi-Vocabulario. Pipiri is nice. De la high, o sea, de la alta sociedad. The word pipir is nice is not in the dictionary. That's what you'll get if you research the Real Academia Español.
The Real Academia Española.
Yes, thank you, Juan. Website for the definition of this Mexican term. Like many of our palabras, which one way or the other have somehow gained popularity and an unofficial universal acceptance with our cultura for what they mean, pipir is nice is one of those words that cannot be very easily defined. Therefore, probably the best way to express what pipiri is nice means is to explain how or when it would be used. If you're attempting to say something a bit much more extra lavish, exaggeratedly expensive, or simply over the top, you might say, "I get pipiri's nice." So you would say like you know how when somebody uses the term like they would say something like, "Oh, you clean up clean," like something like that.
You clean up nice.
You clean up, yeah. Look at her. She looks something like that. So, where did I leave off? Good God. Okay. Going back to the reading. If a certain somebody is acting extra snobbish or showing off more than they should, rubbing in your face how fancy or expensive the material possessions might be, you might say, "No, pues, la chela ya anda bien pipiris nice." Or in the case of telenovelas, when a dirt poor protege moves from the vecindad to the mansion, completely changes the wardrobe, and takes on a fleet of staff to do everything for them from now on, then all of a sudden the vecinos or the vecindad might simply refer to them as PPD's nice. Okay, I kind of get that. Okay.
Think about Marimar and all those like telenovelas where she always went from being poor to being the rich woman, and then she was like, she was like then at that point.
So PPD is nice to me, Juan. Well, let me finish this. Okay. Anything can be PPD is nice. Yourself, your belongings, your parties, your pets, your thoughts, etc. It's quite the versatile adjective, though sadly, to be PPD is nice is not necessarily a compliment. So when I hear PPD is nice, Juan, to me it's more of a funny term. It's more to like make fun of.
Like to make fun of somebody?
To make fun of something or somebody, right? And especially like if they're being, like you said in your blog post, to be like snobbish, to be like I don't want to go over there because like I haven't gone to that side of the neighborhood because it's so bad, and I don't like, that's not who I am anymore.
Yeah, like
you know what I mean?
Like you grew up in the wrong side of the tracks.
Yeah. So to me,
but it's like it's kind of like, to use another Spanish word, it's like fresa. Like when you say fresa, it's like, it's not necessarily it's not necessarily used in a good way. Like it's not a compliment to be called a fresa. Like you're like, it's more like, oh, she's stuck up, right?
Yeah, and then you use it to make fun of yourself too. You're like yes, I'm so fresa. Like yes, but I never heard of so PPD nice. For me it's still the term that I am still defining a little bit, maybe for myself, because like I said, I only heard it when my stepdad would use it.
But I think when you said it, like now when you use the example, when you were like, oh, look at you, like the way that you look, like you're what did you say, you
clean up nice,
you clean up nice, like that's like a playful way of using the word PPD's nice, like ooh, PPD's nice. It's like, and people are gonna be like, oh, okay, like I look good, like I'm feeling myself, I guess to use what you would use today.
So I'm trying to think of my family the way that we use it, and I can't see my uncle be like, I thought that PPD's nice.
No, and then it wouldn't be your uncle to use it. It might be like your sister or like your niece or somebody that like more playful, like that would tell you that. But I don't. I wouldn't imagine your uncle being like, ooh, PPD's nice.
No, he wouldn't say it like that, but he'd be like, he would use a term, you know what I'm saying? Like he would use a term. But yeah, so that was a good one. Okay. So the last one. On the Mexi-Vocabulario, we have mitotero. A ver, so, ya por andar de mitotero, mira nada más que lo que me enteré.
Wait, let's go back to that. I was going to say before we go on to that one.
Okay.
So the picture that I had back then,
For PPD's nice.
For PPD's nice.
Okay.
That I used in the blog post was like a picture of, you remember that show that Paris Hilton had?
Which one?
With Nicole Richie, where it was like what was it called?
Sweet Life
or something like that.
Yeah.
So it was a picture of her leaning on her like pink Corvette, and she was like, and that's why like, but PPD's nice, and I think that was another reason why people it caught attention because I think people were like, oh well, Paris Hilton is definitely the definition of PPD's nice.
Oh my God, she would be.
Especially in that time frame that
she would be. So we all know that her family is like rich, right? She's like the heiress to like the Hilton Hotel, right? So we all know that she's like, but she, aside from her family, like is over the top. Like she, the fur, the
and back then she was
pink,
like the it girl.
Yeah, the pink. Her phones were pink. Her shoes were pink. Her dog was pink. Like she made, like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's the equivalent of PPD's nice.
And I thought I just mentioned it because I thought it was funny, and I think this was like part of like the blend of like. It was funny, like, because you wouldn't normally associate the word PPD's nice with like Paris Hilton because it's like,
no, you wouldn't,
because it's like, there's a disconnect there. But I think like for all the people that grew up like us that were like Mexican but they were living in the U.S. And they were like about our age or younger, like they were like, oh, that makes sense, like it was like a very cultural thing that you're like, she's definitely PPD's nice.
Like if you knew, like if you seen her like on if you, because she was always like on like everybody knew who she was, period. Like she's cultural. Like it's something when I look back in my teens and I look back in my early 20s, like I think of Paris Hilton. Like I still go back to like her music, and I still go back to like references of like her and The Sweet Life and Nicole Richie. But Paris Hilton is the epitome of like what it is to be Pipiti's nice.
But if you would have told your non-Hispanic friends like Paris Hilton is Pipiti's nice, they would have been like, what? What?
Yeah.
So I just thought that was like, I like the fact that like you could relate it, like you could kind of like in a way like talk about both like both cultures.
Yeah, it jumps cultures.
Yeah, like I thought it was funny. Like
it does. It sure does.
And so like now, like in hindsight, I'm like, oh, I made that connection, like, and I think subconsciously, for whatever reason. But it was just like, yeah, like it's like that's the word I want to use for her.
You know who I think about? La Familia Peluche when I hear the word Pipiti's nice.
Oh,
La Familia Peluche.
I would consider them Pipiti's nice.
Okay, so the wife is always trying to do like the most.
Oh yeah.
And so she's always like exaggerating like everything, right? Yeah. And they're already like living in Peluche.
The other word,
and she's always going overboard over it with it.
I think another word for them when I think about them.
What word do you think?
Naco.
Naco. Oh my God. Did you write that word on here? The Mexi-Vocabulario?
I think I do have that word.
Okay. Well, we need to read that one.
Back up on your bullshit, don't belong to me. You acting all sleazy, I don't like what I see. I got all the game, don't get fucked in your brain. I can do you worse than you ever did me first.
My name is Angelica Casares.
And I'm Juan Alanis.
So if you're out here and you've left us a rating, Juan, you just told me right now we had a rating, right?
Yeah, I was saying that I was saying that people have a lot of opinions about our podcast and our like.
I don't know if they have it. Like they're not talking about us. They don't have a lot of opinions, but they've left us a review.
No, I say that jokingly because we've gotten a few comments here and there. And,
okay. So we're encouraging people to come leave us a rating and a review.
So you're right. One thing about us is that we are pretty thick-skinned. At least I consider myself to be pretty thick-skinned.
You are.
So
don't be mean to me.
So we take everything. We take all the feedback that you give us, and we really appreciate it because we feel like this is a learning experience for us as we're kind of learning to do this more and more. And where we started a year ago is not where we are now, but who knows where we're going to be in a year from now if we're still doing this.
Yeah.
But
we're enjoying it.
We wanted to take a moment while you're listening to this podcast to just say thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to us, and to remind you to share this podcast and any other podcast that you might have enjoyed with your friends and family, and to let you know that we're on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, all that good places that you can go and listen to podcasts. But you can find all our links at juanofwords.com and on all our social media accounts.
Back up on my piece shit, I don't care if you don't like it. I'm really different, don't gotta show you I'm like that. Like the baby.
And so the next word on Mexi-Vocabulario, mitotero. A ver, soy yo por andar de mitotero, mira nada más lo que me enteré. So mitotero, the only word in that sentence that stood out to me, mostly in telenovelas and variety shows, is where I heard it before, since our house metiche and chismoso were much more common. And apparently there's another couple of different definitions of what actually mitotero means. El Urban Dictionary says being up or getting mixed in business or information that has no relationship to you whatsoever, being in the mix where you don't belong, preying into affairs and businesses of others.
That just reminded me that I used to back then I would watch novelas, and sometimes when some of the words that they would say would be the inspiration for my Mexi-Vocabulario.
So you just sit there like legit on the novelas and be like, all right, check.
Yeah, because I was like from that line, the beginning, I was like, yeah, like I guess I must have watched the novela, and then they must have said that phrase, and then I was like, mitotero. I was like, what the hell?
That definitely doesn't sound very inclusive here in the States. I don't hear it. Maybe it's a very Mexican word.
Yeah, I think it's a Mexican word.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you want to read the dictionary, what la Real Academia Español says?
So while la Real Academia Española offers the following definition: que hace mitotes, melindres, and also is amigo de diversiones is number 2, and number 3, que hace mitotes, pendencias, or I guess they lie.
I have no idea what you know what it's more confusing.
That's the one thing about like the Real Academia is like I don't know. Like I don't want to say it because like people like
¿Qué hace mitotes?
people are gonna come for me. But I feel like the Real Academia like makes sense.
What is que haces mitotes? What does that even mean?
You have to then you have to go look up mitotes.
Oh my God.
But no, like to me, like the Real Academia is like the authority, I guess, in the formal Spanish in some way. But I think there's a lot of varieties of Spanish, and I don't think, and to me, like I think that the Mexican Spanish too is
It's so mixed.
It's very versatile.
It is like we can make words out of everything and anything,
and it's legit.
It's legit.
Just because it's not
because we say it's just legit.
Yeah, like
okay.
it's used by
right.
by hundreds and thousands, millions of people. So like it's pretty legit, I would say.
yeah, we have our own Spanish.
Yeah.
I mean, but every country usually does.
Yeah.
So yeah, mitotero. What did you use it often or did you hear it?
And that one was one that I don't think I mean, I heard it, here and there, maybe a few times. But I think it's more of like an older word, like an older like expression. So I feel like it's more like formal, like or like way, or like, or is more like, I guess like everybody would use that. But I feel like mitotero is like an older word, like maybe my grandparents or like.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Like if you use it, if you like say it, I think people would understand it though.
Yeah. Yeah, like I think that if you use it in a sentence, especially, like people would be like if you in the way that it was written there, like por andar de mitotero, mira de lo que me enteré, then you understand like mitotero. Oh, like metiche. Oh, you're being a metiche. Oh, you're being nosy. Oh, you were sticking your nose in where you didn't need to be.
Yeah.
And so you heard the business and you found this out. Like,
chismoso, metiche. Yeah. So what's the difference between chismoso and metiche?
Chismoso, metiche, like I think they're pretty similar. Like I think chismoso, like maybe there's more of a negative connotation to chismoso.
Do you think chismoso is to like gain information to then use it?
Yeah.
And metiche is just to hear what's happening, just so you can get an overall feel of it.
Well, to me, metiche can be just somebody that wants to be in the mix, just to like that one.
Okay, metiche
that
wants to be in the mix.
That just wants to like be aware or know what's happening.
So, like, the knowing,
So like if somebody's having an argument, that you're going to be there, they're going to be listening, they're going to be watching.
You know what? My metiche as is usually like if two people are arguing, I'd be like, what are they arguing about?
But they're not necessarily doing it with bad intentions. And I think that a lot of times when people say chismoso, there's a negative connotation that people think
okay,
like,
I see what you're saying.
Like they're listening or they're doing or they're like whatever they're doing it with intention to then go and like carry that information to somebody else. Like because they want to gossip.
Tell.
Yeah, they want to gossip and they want to tell what you said or what they know. They want to use that information to like share it with others.
Chismoso to me means the act of repeating or repeating or redefining or like something happened, right? And you're gathering the information that you can and you're breaking it down in the way you want to and then saying it in the way you think it was appropriate. That's chismoso. Right? You went and te fuiste a enterar de algo that had nothing to do with you and now you're repeating it. And that's a chismoso. But when I hear metiche, to me, it's like, because I'm a metiche. And look, I am that person that I am straight up, like if something happened, like look, there's a car accident, you best believe, like it's up on my road, like you seen me the other day, there was a car chase right in front of our house and it ended like half a block away or something. I sure did get out of the house and was like, oh, nosy as hell, because it's my neighborhood, it's like all my street, I need to know, I gotta know.
It's like a metiche, your ears go up when something happens, like our cat Becky, anytime she hears a noise, she's like, huh?
Yeah, she does.
She's like alert and ready to find out what the hell's going on. Who the hell's making noise?
Yeah.
Who's coming in the house? Who's doing like so? It's
who's
like that's
who's
a metiche.
That? Yeah.
But like if the intention like was to like, oh, let me find out what Angelica's saying or what Angelica said about so and so I can go and tell so and so, like, you know what, Angelica said that you're this and you're that and
yeah, that's a chismoso.
Guess what I heard? Guess
starting
what I know?
Shit. Yeah, starting stuff where you're not supposed to because you thought you heard something and somebody said something in confidence to you. Ya vas to go say something.
But I think chismoso, it has a negative connotation, but I think it can also have it doesn't necessarily have to be a negative word though.
What, chismoso?
Yeah, like I don't think so, because sometimes like, you know, like when you like the chisme, like when you hang out.
Oh, the chisme's hot.
Like when you, it's kind of like that, like it's kind of like, you know, when you say the tea, like when you're like,
yeah,
you know, like,
yeah, the chisme is hot, the tea is hot.
So you like, it's not necessarily that it's a bad thing, because maybe it's just like funny conversation that you're having.
Yeah.
Like among a group of friends, or like among like family, like you're talking, like it's just like fun. And like there's no like ill will behind it. It's just like you're just like sharing things about yourself or your life or other, like it's not malintention. So I think chismoso like has a negative connotation, but it doesn't have to be a negative thing.
Well, my friends had been like, I had seen two of my friends, and they both came here, not at the same time but different times, and we were eating, and I would like throw my spoon down. I was like, girl, let me tell you what happened. So it's like that, you know what I mean? Because
remember when we would get together with friends like before COVID, and we would always be like, so what you got, what you know, what's been going on with you, what, tell us the cheese man, what's the cheese man? And like that was just like an expression. It wasn't like, ooh, tell me what you know about so and so.
No, so usually my interpretation is like, tell me the cheese man. Usually I look at them straight in the face. I was like, y luego? Like, so we're here now. Tell me now. There's nobody around, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of metiche and chismoso-nism going, mitateros all up in the business. Ain't got no business nowhere.
But I think that was, I mean, to me, like that was the whole thing of like doing like the Mexi-Vocabulario was like just as like the Spanish, like I think the Spanish one already, like I think the Spanish language already. But then like when you talk about like Mexican Spanish, Mexican slang, like I feel like there's like we have a lot of fun with it. Like, I think it's like as Mexicans, like we like to make fun of ourselves. We like to have fun. We like to play.
We do. Playful. Everything's always turned into something funny.
Yeah.
It's like if there's a way to make it funny, we'll make it. Exactly. But not even we're supposed to. We make it funny.
Yeah.
We should probably stop. But when if there is a way to make it funny to like lighten the mood, I think Mexicans will. And I think a lot of the times that's why some of our words are used universally, like throughout like the world.
Yeah.
Like wake, I've been hearing like people use it in other, like, you know, like,
even the way that slang is used sometimes in conversation. Like there's an actress, Eiza Gonzalez, who did she used to come out on a novela, and in the novela that she used to come out with, her character was like a teenager that was like a pipiris nice girl, that she was like a rich girl, and she always had like these really sarcastic things, and she would always say like crazy stuff, and it was always like, but it was always like things like that, like ovi, like, you know, she would say like things like that, and the way she said it was like insulting to it was meant to be insulting, but it was funny because she was like, I guess the terminology that you could translate would be like she kept reading people, but in a funny way. So it was like,
what does reading mean, Juan? For those who don't know, you're out here saying all kinds of words. What does reading mean?
That's like when you like I don't know how to explain it, because it's like another one of those things like
it's cultural,
like cultural thing. Like in like it's like
you heard
if you understand the phrase throwing shade at somebody, it's like you're being shady. You're kind of like como que le estás echando una indirecta in a way, but you're like you can do it like in a hostile way, or you can do it in a funny way, like where you don't really like, you do mean to take a dig at them.
Oh, there it is, taking digs.
You mean to take a dig at them, but you don't mean it like that serious. Like, you know, you're not like, hey, I'm gonna like I'm trying to insult you, I'm trying to make you feel bad, I'm just trying to like point something out,
trying to drag you.
So it's like, it's funny because it's like that's kind of like there's like a connection there in some way. But those words are like, I think that's why I like the Mexican Spanish, because I think we use like a lot of the words. We like to be playful with the words.
I definitely I agree. We definitely like to use a lot of we like to make our own thing, because it has a different feeling, it has a different meaning, and just the way you use it, and that's the way like we work, that's the way we function.
And there was another account, or no, not another account, but it was like, and there was another social media account back then that ended up becoming a movie, and it was a social media Twitter account that started out like, it was called Cindy La Regia.
Okay.
And La Regia pretty much means that you're like from Regio Montana, that you're from Monterrey. So like
La Regia means everything north of Monterrey. So it like, but yes, La Regia
was Regio Montana. So she was from Monterrey, which is a very like they have their own unique way of using the Spanish language, and so like a lot of times the way they would say things, expressions, the words they would use. So there was this Twitter account that was set up, and it was called Cindy La Regia, and she would do the same thing that the girl was telling you about, Eiza would do, where it was just, she would say stuff, and it was like digs, but it was like funny stuff, and it was about politics, about everyday life, like sad things, happy things, everything, and it had like a big following. eventually, like, I think 10 years later, like, they turned it into like a movie on Netflix or like Pantalla or one of those one of those like streaming services. And I was like, that's crazy that somebody like started this Twitter account that became a movie.
Yeah.
And like, that's crazy. All from the Mexican Spanish
language.
vocabulary.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's pretty crazy. Like,
Yeah.
but I think that goes to show, like,
Yeah, the strength, or not the strength, but the way in which it can, the way the Mexican like vocabulary like streamlines.
yeah, and how entertaining it is. Like,
Yeah.
it's fun. Like, I think that's why people like reading that, and like to this day, like people will find words that are on the blog. Because I stopped doing the Mexi-Vocabulario a while ago, and I was telling you the other day, I was like, maybe I should do it again. But like, I stopped it a while ago, and people still find them words.
Yeah.
And they still like post comments and stuff, and I'm like, I think it's crazy how like through that, like the little words like that expression, like everybody just like, oh yeah, I know what that is, and everybody has their own
interpretation
version of what it is.
Yeah, that's it. I like these. We need to do this again. This was amazing, but we've come up to time. We can keep talking and going about these Mexi-Vocabularios or what your interpretation is. But if you enjoyed this episode, leave us a thumb up. As a matter of fact, you know what? Before you leave us a thumbs up, go read these on juanawords.com. There you'll find all the Mexi-Vocabularios. There's a search bar. You can search Mexi-Vocabulario, and it'll come up all the words that are there. Leave a comment if you'd so kindly like to, or come back to the podcast and leave us one, or if you like remember one and maybe you want us to read it here or talk about it on here, let us know. Or what is your favorite Mexi-Vocabulario? What is your favorite what would you call these words? I know they're not called Mexi-Vocabularios. What would you call them?
I'll say Mexican slang.
Yes. So if you have there's a word that you like and that you use often and you're like, where did I pick that up from? Let us know. We want to hear it.
Yeah, I think, and if you have a suggestion of a word that you want us to read or talk about or write about, let us know.
Yeah.
But with that, I do also want to thank our sponsor, Comcast in Houston, for supporting our podcast and for supporting local business owners to their Comcast Rise initiative, which just awarded 100 entrepreneurs in Houston $10,000 each for their businesses. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think they have a posted list. Go look at the list. Go congratulate the recipients of that list. And yeah, we hope you enjoyed this episode. Oh, yes. Good God. We're also on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcast. We're on Stitcher, correct?
Yep. And on juanawords.com.
Yes. And visit us on our Facebook, social media. If you're on Instagram, go on over. Leave us a comment, a rate, or review. The better our ratings on Apple Podcasts, the more people would find us, if you so likely inclined. Am I missing anything?
I think you covered.
Before I'm like, okay, before I come right back. Am I good?
No, I think we're good.
Okay.
I think we're good.
So thank you again for joining us on this podcast. And with that,
we'll see you next time.
bye.
Bye.